All right, we're going to talk today a little bit about pre-Columbian history. Why is there such a disagreement, or why is there so much mixed information concerning pre-Columbian history? That is to say, in the year that Columbus supposedly discovered America. I'm going to tell you this in basically parable form where it concerns museums and heads of museums, because I'm going to go back to the 30s, and I choose not to mention names. I see it would serve no purpose at this time. But what I'm about to share with you is absolute truth, and it explains basically why we are in the condition or the situation that we are in concerning pre-Columbian history. In the 30s, we had a man that was appointed as head of, I'll simply say, the largest museum in the Americas, where our government is responsible for the upkeep, the storing, and so forth of information of archaeological in the linguistic fields, or just simply history of our great nation. This man was basically closed-minded. Just simply did not and would not expand himself or recognize facts, and would any of the younger linguists or archaeologists or those that would come into either of these fields in anthropology, so forth, he simply closed the door. And if he spoke against a young person that might find something or educate themselves in a different vein of thought, they were blackballed basically. And this closed the door to open-mindedness of the scientists that worked in these fields. Example, it was not legitimate to simply give your opinion or discuss openly various aspects of could this have been or could that have been, where this open discussion is where we basically get our growth, is when something is discussed and then we go to the field or history and document it. This is the way minds grow. But we had a long dry spell basically because of the head guru, I will call him, of these basic, the bottleneck through which all this information must filter, and even the credentials and the outcome of those students that might expand upon these things. I know from firsthand testimony, these things that I'm telling you are true. So basically what happened then, and it's one of the reasons that in the academic community that we have a closed-mindedness to this day because of the fear left over. And that's really a sad state of affairs in our great nation. It's a sad time of history when everything else was able to expand into, well, we'll use the term high tech. Then history itself basically came to a stumbling block, and this particular individual was that rock that was the rock of stumbling as far as growth in discoveries made in our own nation, that events, alphabets, travels, petroglyphs, and so forth actually found and documented simply are poo-pawed basically by still certain students, or the bad taste in our mouth left over from the head guru that was the stumbling block. This country always has been one that was open and we were free to discuss, but not in these fields. And unfortunately, this is why our history books, as far as Columbus having discovered America and so forth, have not been reprinted. And there are some of us, and great men such as Dr. Barry Fell, he being the foremost, I will stop with him, but there are many others that know for a fact, due to modern dating, carbon date, and so on and so forth, that we know beyond the fact that were people here long before Columbus. Number one, the American Indian was here. You can't discover a land and be the first there if there are already people there at that time. You have to pick up the history from that, from the Anastasies, the Membres, and on it goes. And that's one thing that I enjoy, one thing about documentaries that I so enjoy. Now, let's take Ogham. You hear me mention Ogham, and I being one of the translators of Ogham that is left in this nation. And I'm going to share with you a most beautiful panel from Oklahoma in this documentary. But what is Ogham? Ogham is an alphabet that has a stem line, and whether, example, if we have a 1/2 mark, we have a B or an H, whether it goes above or below the stem. It's just that simple. We could make an A in English, which is the same as the ancient Phalo, only it's upright. The alphabets do not change all that much. But it's no different than seeing an A or a B or an H in English. And I stated B one below. I mean that B is two below, B is one below, and L would be 2 half strokes below, and so forth. Now, if you have one stroke that goes all the way through the stem line, which is simply a point of deciphering, then you have an M. So there's no great mystery, and the people that use this alphabet, and that's all it is. It isn't a language, it's an alphabet. In other words, you can write your own name in Ogham or anything else. Because it is the equivalent, you might say, I'll say, of our alphabet, almost to the completeness. And naturally, as in most ancient languages on stone, the vowels were left out. But the translator, after he gets the flow or the string, is able to insert those vowels, and as long as you utilize the language in which the people used that left the alphabet there, the writing, then certainly you have no trouble. Now, Ogham was mostly used, not necessarily only the Celts or the Celts, but basically that's where the language formulated. Therefore, naturally, most Ogham is translated by utilizing the Gaelic tongue. That is to say, Gaelic is the language in which Ogham, the alphabet, brings forth a message. So there's no great mystery in this. The Iberians, their alphabet is basically simple. And incidentally, one of the gentlemen that gave a witness to the 30s is the foremost in Middle Eastern languages, a well-known linguist even in this day and time. Again, let's keep names from this because it's just one of those things that happened. It is a fact. The door has been closed, and we keep hammering, thanks again to people like Dr. Fell, who made stands, and yes, their reputations were tarnished by the so-called system. But that has never worried this student of God's Word or of history itself. I have always felt it is good to talk about things, to think, to use your mind that was given to you to explore and to understand our heritage, because there's nothing new under the sun. People basically do not change, simply they're tools. From the beginning of time, man has always had the necessity to consume food. That's nothing new. There's nothing new about that. Naturally, we change foods, but all human beings have appetites and all human beings need water. So there is a common strain that when you get down to the basics, it's very simple to follow people and their ways, their heritage. We're going to start, I suppose I should recap this. What I'm saying is, I hope that our endeavors spring open more doors, as it is doing. We are well received at most universities, and I appreciate that. Seekers of truth, and I hope that it continues. And certainly the works are in the field, basically, and how I enjoy the field, how I enjoy going on field trips, finding and deciphering these ancient messages. This past winter, we were able to go into eastern Oklahoma, perhaps I should say northeastern Oklahoma, where basically we open into the vast prairie and plains of America. In other words, following rivers north into the break off of the bench land and up on the plateaus of the Great Plains. And there is a rich history recorded in this specific place, and our thanks go to those two men who you'll be introduced to, and that called this to our attention. And there will be more. There will be more. But this will be one of the earliest histories written in a recognized alphabet as to conditions of the land, the people, as well as the animal habitat in that area at that time. So always have an open mind. Never be afraid to search or to think for yourself. And just because a certain head guru might declare a thing, that doesn't make it so necessarily. And it's easier to close a door than it is to open it and then have to explain, in your opinion, what has been observed. So this causes a fear or an anxiety, it would seem, among some. And it doesn't hurt to say, we don't understand this right now. But let's keep searching. Keys that unlock the hidden mysteries of time and people's alphabets and so forth. One stone building upon another, basically pretty soon keys are open, such as certain stones that were found in Malta languages broke the code to certain languages, to certain linguists, alphabets, whereby we're able to understand more ancient writings, if you get the drift of what I'm trying to say. This certainly research is a beautiful, honorable, and wonderful thing. And we will continue our research into the things left written in stone, for the stones do speak when we observe, watch, listen, hear with understanding. We will continue our research into this, and I hope that you enjoy it, because I'm about to show you the rewards thereof. Now, let's take a panel of Ogham, the one I aforementioned, that we found in Oklahoma. Now, it isn't hard to distinguish where the stem line, though this is called, this particular Ogham has no stem line, but that's the learned reader knows where the stem line is by the fact that one particular letter utilized hinge Ogham, meaning it's broke in the middle, declaring the stem line. So we have the translation. Now let's break this down as I stated. And remember I said 2 lines down is an L. We'll take the first word in this string, reading left to right as Ogham does, and you see the L. Yes, there are 2 vowels, and you will notice the points above the stem line there, stem line having been added by yours truly. And so we have A-L-A-M. The full stroke crossing the stem line makes the M. And the word is Elam. Elam in the Gaelic tongue. And the translation, quite simply, is heard. Now, let's take the next word. 4 lines below the stem line, that's S. Just as though you had written it in English. It's still the alphabet. We add the O, and the H many times is translated CH, as I have done in this case, with the straight line again above and below, giving us an M. and then the vowel A in the Gaelic, and we have Shakhuai, which it means easy, very easy. All right? And then we skip on to the word Dall, D-A-L-L. And naturally, 2 marks above the stem line is a D. We add the vowel A, and then we have a double L, 2 lines down, giving us the double L, and it means a blind person in the Gaelic tongue. And then we go to the next word, and you should be able to recognize yourself. Here we have 1 line above and below the stem line. What is that? It's an M, an M. And then 1 short line below is it being a B. So we have, to the linguist of the Gaelic tongue, Ambe, Ambe, which means dead, or to make a kill. And then we skip to the next letter, and we have gain, and then we have 1 M, which is the line all the way through, the vowel A, and 2 marks above and below the stem line gives us a G, mig, and it means open or plain, a wide open place. But we see gain means choice or quality, wonderful, good place. And then we drop to the lower stem line, and again we have another S, which is the same, 4 lines going either below or all the way through the stem line, the vowel U, 1 line below B, and the vowel A, and then a CH. It means joyful and exciting. And then we pick up the next word. We have 2 vowels together. We have the line totally through the stem line, above and below. What is it? You've had it 2 or 3 times. It's an M. Simply an M. And then you have AI, the dots representing those vowels. And what are the 2 lines through the stem line, meaning above and below? A G. It's that simple. And then with 5 below, you have an N and the vowel E, Megna, which means big, it's great, it's wonderful. And of course, we have a B. This, again, you should be picking up. You see how simple that Ogham actually is. We have the short line below, which is a B, and then we have the vowel A, and 3 lines through and above is N. So we have ban, which means in the Gaelic tongue, blessed, or it can't even be translated holy. Now, this is how it's done, and there's a great message here in the Gaelic tongue. And what does it say? The herd is so plentiful, no doubt meaning buffalo, a blind man can make a kill. In other words, you can shoot anywhere you want to and you're going to hit one. Like our old cliche, you like shooting fish in a barrel. A blind man can make a kill. This is choice, quality, open plain. It is joyfully exciting and greatly blessed. So there you have somewhere between, it could go as old as 600, but it's most likely somewhere around 800 to 900 AD. Because of the vowelless Ogham that is paneled here, we're able to determine the age of the Ogham by the type it is, and also the trained eye can tell ancient writings from near ancient to some would-be linguist trying to deceive people in the end times. It can't be done. We know from it's just simply that the trained eye knows the difference. And there are ways to go further than even this, but it's the trained eye can tell when it's legitimate and when it's a fake. This string, this beautiful panel, is certainly legitimate. It is probably some of the oldest history, not the oldest, but some of the older history of Oklahoma, giving the beautiful view of the great plains and prairies, even as far as Kansas, and how thick the buffalo were. The game was so thick a blind man could make a kill. Think about that. Think about that. The Celtic people were great ones to use figures of speech. Thus, the figure of speech that you have found within this string. Oklahoma should be very proud of this panel because it is known history recorded long ago by travelers that were here long before Columbus. We will be doing more Ogham in Oklahoma. The same gentlemen that you will meet here in a moment have found more strings, and it is legitimate. It will read. I have not translated it yet, but it will read. So, with this having been said, how wonderful it is that we can open our minds and that we can look into the past and document. And this is absolute documentation that, yes, people traveled long ago to this specific location. I hope you'll enjoy seeing the research in the field as much as we enjoyed doing it for you. Listen, won't you?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here in northeast Oklahoma. And certainly we're in a location that had visitors of long ago. We can date part of the visitors to about 800 or 900 AD. And I'll be talking more about them. It is very possible that this is a solar point, probably for spring or winter solstice. Unfortunately, as in many parts of the country, travelers throughout and in later years have left marks also. When you see ancient writings, though some people may tell you they're plow marks or marks where people sharpen tools, don't bother them. It's part of our heritage. It's history. It's very possible that it is one of the ancient languages, which has certainly beyond any shadow of a doubt we have in this particular location. But there are markings that are certainly more recent, that RK or BK or whatever your initials might be. People are going to forget about you because all it is initial. But you might destroy part of the heritage of the people that traveled this land that is part of our history, that is ever so important. And we have various markings, unfortunately, as is in some limestone, there is a spillover of water, and it has deteriorated part of the markings, where we won't say a great deal other than it's obvious that many of them are ancient. It's just rich with it. And perhaps if we were to take more time sometime, we could separate the writings to that is recent and that is ancient. But as we move around in this overhang, we come to something that is very beautiful. You might make a note here that this is the way limestone will deteriorate on you. It's falling away. But to the eye, it's obvious this is a sunburst. And it would be very interesting to check this spot out as a calendar or a date to let travelers know when the first day of winter came to be because of that sun. But here you have it. Here you have a perfect string of ancient Ogham. I'm going to move to the other side, and as much as it reads from left to right, and what is beautiful about this, that even though it is ancient, it is the type of Ogham that was used in 800 to 900 AD. It could be earlier than that, but we can say that and feel very safe in the statement. And does it read? You bet it reads. If I may, I will, when we get back to the studio, we'll fix you with the Chiron and a better, more understandable reading. But while we're here in the field, why don't I? Okay? The first word we have is herd or flock. It means, and they're talking about a great herd, and I have no doubt it's buffalo because we're in northeast Oklahoma. It states the herd is so plentiful that a blind man can make a kill. that it is a vast open plain. And when you look to this direction, you're looking in northeastern Oklahoma into Kansas, which no doubt they had trekked and explored many miles of this area. I mean, after you come across the Atlantic, no doubt tipping Iceland, Greenland, Newfoundland, down around the Keys, Florida, and up the Mississippi, and then up the Arkansas, and then up a little river that runs very close to here, just a regular highway. They think nothing of traveling 50, 100 miles to explore this great plain, and they're very excited about it. After saying a blind man can make a kill, that means you're not going to starve here, and they had something besides fish to eat. It states then that it is a great open plain. And being a great open plain, it's exciting, and it is certainly blessed. The word blessed can be translated holy as well. So these celts, this being in ancient Ogham, a perfect string, and it reads beautifully. What a find, what a panel in northeastern Oklahoma. I'm going to introduce you to the gentleman here in a moment that directed us to this site, and it's one of those panels, certainly in our documentaries, that will go down as magnificent, because it doesn't say that this particular people were here or that people. We have a description of what Oklahoma was like when you come from the rough country. That is to say, the mountains, the river, as they would trek up the Mississippi to the Arkansas, and then up various other rivers, and I'm not going to mention the names of any other streams, and then come to this great spot and find those magnificent herds of buffalo that were in this area from 8 to 900 AD. Do you see how valuable history is? Though we have no written history, supposedly, of that area, well, what is the truth of the matter? We do. We do have written history of what it was like, what the land had upon it. Magnificent herds of buffalo so thick that a blind man could make a kill. That means point and shoot and you'll hit something. And of course, though that might be offensive to some, God created animals for a man to sustain himself, the clean animals. And certainly the buffalo was one of those. That was the difference between life and death at that time. And quite frankly, food still is. You stop eating and you die. And I won't go into it past that. But they were so thick. It's a figure of speech. And idioms, metaphors, and figures of speech, they don't really change all that much. I would dare say that many, though this is dated 8 to 900 AD, that there are many people today that would say, the fish were so thick you could throw and hit one of them, or something. It's the same thing, same idiom, describing these great plains of Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. They had traveled here, they saw them, the game was fantastic. At this time there was no pollution, so we do have written history about what was in Oklahoma and many other parts of the country. That's why it just is absolutely necessary that when you see something like this, don't try to improve it or destroy it. It's valuable history. It's our heritage. It's something that we can take pride in. That yes, people, many different peoples traveled this great land long before Columbus discovered America. You see, the proof's in the pudding. We'll use another figure of speech. It's here. It can't be denied, and I assure you it is not recent. It's not a forgery. When you look at so many of them, you gain that experience that you can simply tell at a quick glance. It's genuine, and it is precious. It's one of the most fantastic panels. I can understand why they use the word it's exciting, because it's exciting also to find the panel, the message, and the history that they left here. The herd of buffalo, so thick that a blind man could make a kill. It's a glorious, great open plain. And that plain is exceedingly, joyfully blessed. And certainly it was with that sustains man and gives him that peace in a very unpolluted world, which it was at that time. Oh my. Northeast Oklahoma, you bet. Ancient Irish Ogham. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the gentleman that brought us to this wonderful spot, Mr. Robert D. Moss. Robert, thank you very much for having us. Okay.
Very much.
And Chinubby McIntosh.
Right.
And that's a good Creek and Irish name all combined there together. Thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely.
And how rewarding the message left here in history.
Oh.
And I know it's going to be a blessing to the great state of Oklahoma.
Arnold, we're just excited that we located someone that could come over and give us a translation.
Wow. It was my pleasure, a pleasure indeed. Again, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you for
so
coming.
very much. Thank you.
You and your Semenotski sons. That's Creek for handsome.
Oh, well, great. They'll both enjoy that. Again, thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this site. It is fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are again in the great Rio Grande River Valley. Great state of New Mexico, and someone I want to introduce to you. Fred, thank you very much for having us out today.
Thank you.
And you've got a story that we want to hear, and I'd like for you to share it with the people, if you would.
I'll be happy to.
All right.
We're here at San Miguel at a Celtic site that has a large number of petroglyphs on various boulders. I believe it was a fertility site. Dr. Murray is here to verify that or not. And I usually like to start at this point of rocks here, where you can see two symbols, look like turtles, and a look symbol. Just up the hill from us is another on this flat rock. And we'll work our way along the waterway where we have a fish which may indicate to follow that course. And we'll start from here. Here we have a look symbol, petroglyphed in our rock, and a trail sign to follow this particular contour, which will take us over about another 20 feet to another boulder that's petroglyphed with a fish and perhaps an antelope of some type. Somewhat abstract, but nevertheless it's there. We'll just walk on over this way. Here we have somewhat of an abstract of an antelope with horns. And within this square we have a very well defined fish, which I take to mean follow the water path that we're presently on around the base of the hill. Alrighty, here we have the head of a mule and a slash dot. There's 16 in all. Here we have what I believe is a symbol for a woman, fertility symbol. We have two footprints here and here. We also have what appears to be a woman with a pregnant woman giving birth here. As we come down this particular rock, here we have the goddess Tanith and other symbols on the boulder, such as a spotted fish here, looks like a swordfish on this side, and some faint petroglyphs, which are not that discernible. Here we have what appear to be three keyholes faint, which may be the symbol for Tanith without the cross arm. There's 1, 2, 3. We have 3 crosses here. And then we have what appears to be 2 chalices here on this particular rock. And just down from it we have some other very interesting ones which I believe are related to this.
Okay, start.
All right, here we have what appears to be a dagger with 2 eyes, cross arms, and a point with 3 horizontal slashes on it. Just down the gulch here a little ways from our 3 keyhole symbols on this particular rock. We also have some others on the other side which are somewhat weathered and faint. Here we have a geometric pattern which seemed to fascinate the Celts. They like geometric designs on this particular boulder. And here right next to it is a keyhole that's been cut into the rock right here in the shape of a keyhole. Here we have another keyhole as on the other boulder. Some squigglies here, a circle and a dot. We have a figure of appears to be a man with eyes and a little cone on top of his head. A stick man here with his hands upraised, similar to the site in Winston. And here we have another man figure. Here's his arms, his torso, his eyes, and a rectangular shaped head with his hands down. Most of them here have their hands upraised.
And we're going to analyze this stone after the research at the studio. And if we may, let's have the stone itself, the beginning of it. I believe that what we have here is a tally. Now, I want you to note the woman to the side here that was reported there. I want you to notice the womb-shaped parameter. I think this is a child in the womb. Now, you will notice the dots between the tally marks, and you will note on occasion there are 2 dots that lead across to, this could have been a stillborn, could have been symbolic of a stillborn, out of evidently 16 children that were born in this specific location. Now, let's analyze and think for a moment, what people were these that made this insignia? Well, we'll continue on in the stone, and I think you'll have a better picture. Notice the inside the womb as we look there, and then notice we have about 3 other diagrams of a womb that lead down to what I believe is to be the rain goddess. The rain goddess, and she is actually in the birthing position. There you have the wombs, each womb as it comes down, and then we have the rain goddess in the birthing position actually giving birth. So this takes any doubt whatsoever away from the fact that this stone is a record of people that were born here. Now, you have seen this before, and under different conditions, on a ranch not too far from this place. Let me think for a moment, probably about 30 miles, and I'm not going to give any locations, just simply say within 30 miles, was the rain goddess along with Tanit. And Tanit being the Carthaginian goddess, so to speak, that inasmuch as everything is based on the triangle, which is the pelvic area of woman that sailors evidently see in their sleep or something, because we see the keyhole or the triangle which this goddess would take. But, as you will see, you have seen this rain goddess, and without divulging the location where this stone is, it's on a waterway. And water was life in the desert.
All right, again, in the field, we have a fascinating find here. Let's talk about people for a moment. The Carthaginians were dispelled from Carthage about 800 BC. That is to say, they were there about 800 BC. The things people worship, they take with them. So we can rest assured that as they make their migrations, they're going to take their gods with them, just as we as Christians would not think of traveling usually without saying, Father, watch over me in His name. So, and when people are far away from home, and when there are dangers, and perhaps even the wonder if they will ever see their loved ones again, naturally, they turn back to that thing that they have faith in. That is just natural, a very natural thing among human beings. Now we're back in the state of New Mexico, and we find here that this little moon goddess named Tene, you'll find her all over Europe, basically, all over Africa, in South Africa, but she originated, it is believed, with the Ephesians, and some scholars think even further back than that, with the Egyptians. What is she? Well, she usually has a round head, always, not necessarily, but most of the time, with upraised arms giving a blessing. And usually it is a triangle such as you see here, which has to do with the pelvic area, and usually all you'll see is a round circle with a triangle below it, which represents the feminine, the moon goddess, and the feminine to document that it is a woman. Her name Tene, and she is called other names in other countries, but most people know her as Tene. She has been found all over the U.S., but I think probably we have one of the better finds here, in as much as even the eyes themselves, as you can see, are very distinct. And whether you can see it or make it up, we have three. Oftentimes there is a part moon and then the sun, which means she being the mother of moon goddess, wife of the father sun in most mythology and in most religions. But we have three here, which is the moon, the sun, and the sun always being the greater. And what is the third? I would not know. But we could say the earth, for which is the completeness of the conception of the sun's rays on Mother Earth, bringing forth light. Now, we have a very unusual thing for the United States. I only know of one other place that we find Tene, and this Phoenician, and I say again, Phoenician symbol, which is a symbol of Tene, with part probably having fallen away, but yet, to the scholar, no question, the Phoenician symbol for Tene. And look at this, right beside it. We have another very unusual thing. This being, we see the feet, and we see the labyrinth, with antennae, which is the mother goddess of water, And the place we are in, over this particular place and any other spiral found, labyrinth or spiral, by using a method of discerning running water underneath, which is what this symbolizes, it is there. It is there. On the exact spot of each spiral. Then we have that underflow, and there is so much to mythology. What does this have to do with a Christian? Well, a Christian should know all people, their travels, where they have gone, and we can better understand then how that the migrations took place whereby we have people affixed as they are. If you were to take the nest of language, let's take the Hebrew Aleph, you have an ox head. Not a letter as we think of an A, though if you were to turn the A over today, you still have the same thing, an ox head. That's how it started in the beginning, and that's what the letter meant, ox head. And throughout all languages, whether it be Babylonian, Phoenician, many times we see these same symbols or a variation of them, which says what? It kind of all came from the same nest, or they certainly crossed paths. So, what a fantastic find.
So we see the same group of people. Many people think Iberian. Was it Iberian? Well, we have further proof from this site that there were Iberians at this location. Now, think not it unusual that you have Ogham and Iberian peoples either traveling together or at least understanding each other's alphabets. Because I will have to call your attention, these same people, and as we expand documentaries, remember way down the Rio Grande River, from where we are here, basically I'll say in the truth or consequences area of following the Rio Grande River, all the way down to the Waco tanks. We actually found the Iberian alphabet and the Ogham alphabet underneath a rock where the word water was written, and there was a tank near that, and to help you remember, David got inside that tank that had broken away, but water was there from both alphabets. The word water, that is. So they traveled in conjunction. Now, why would I say Iberians were in this place? Have a look at this diagram. We have here the masked face, and we have we'll outline it here whereby you can see it better. And you have seen these type figures before. And we have the waterway, the map, we have the same people, and you have seen this in Waco tanks. It is an burial mask in part. It's what it is. And we have a clip. I would like for Dr. Fell at this place to pick up and explain the burial mask, not necessarily the burial mask, but this particular figure. But you see, it's amazing, absolutely amazing that from Waco tanks we have both the Iberian as well as we have Ogham, not necessarily on this location, but within very few miles of here, evidently both people traveling together. We had the Gaelic name for Tenet, the Carthaginian goddess in that location.
We come now to the most remarkable of the Waco tanks pictographs. These are strange rectangular representations of the human figure, covered with geometric designs. The only ones Arnold's party found are very faint. This one is so faint as to almost vanish from sight. But Forrest Kirkland, in his Rock Art of Texas, found some that are very much more distinct. These are drawings made by Kirkland in his 1967 book, Rock Art of Texas. They have become the object of inquiry by me over the past 10 years. I believe that these pictographs are the work of Chalcolithic, that's early Copper Age, Bronze Age people, Chalcolithic people, whose original home was in southern Portugal and Spain. There they engraved flat schist plaques for burial with their dead, like these examples. These are replicas, these are not the original plaques, these are replicas of them, engraved, as I said, on schist and buried with their dead. The simplest type is this type, just like an adze. It looks as if they've used a large adze and simply engraved a pattern of triangles and other markings of that kind on it. The second type we call the ocular plates, which are like the first type, only there are two eyes engraved at the top of the plaque. What they signify we don't know. And the third type occurs where the human body is even more distinctly suggested, with a distinct head engraved at the top, and then the two eyes are on that head. The other markings generally consist of triangles or geometric figures similar to triangles. Well, those are very distinctive objects found in southern Spain and Portugal. The people who made these objects engraved them apparently for burial with their dead. That's at least we find them in their graves. They buried their dead in megalithic passage graves, as they're called, like this one at Anto do Silva, or in rectangular chambers, such as this example at Villanova de Paiva, Portugal. The engraved burial plaques were of the three main kinds that I've just pointed out in these reproductions. We have them also on film, as you see there. Simplest, as I said before, being of an adze-like shape, and they merely carry geometric decoration. Then there are examples like the ones on the right-hand side with the eyes showing, with a pair of owl-like eyes, the so-called ocular plaques, and then the ones of the third type with a head added to produce a curiously geometric human figure. Now the curious thing is that in the examples from Texas at Waco Tanks, we find all three varieties. They're not plaques, they're petroglyphs or pictographs painted on the walls, matching very closely the three varieties found in the early Bronze Age of Portugal and Spain. Thus, in slide 26, we have on the left a Texan example of a simple adze-shaped form, while on the right, the same slide, we see an American ocular plate. In slide 27, we see two American examples, one from Waco Tanks of the third variety with the added head. For the sake of comparison, slide 28 shows a Portuguese adze type on the left and the corresponding Waco Tanks type on the right. Slide 29 shows a Portuguese ocular type on the left and the corresponding Waco Tanks ocular on the right. Slide 30 shows a Portuguese third type or capitate form on the left with the head and the corresponding Waco Tanks equivalent on the right. What conclusions can we draw? We might make the inference that early Bronze Age voyagers came in seagoing ships from southern Portugal and southern Spain across the Atlantic to reach the mouth of the Rio Grande, and then sailed up the river until they reached the Waco Tanks. There they were apparently later joined by other wanderers from Celtic and Scandinavian countries of Europe.
What a nation we have. The mountains, the plains, waving fields of grain. What a land. What a blessed land we have. What a history that is recorded. Never be afraid to think for yourself, to investigate, to search. The harvest that you will receive is knowledge that this is such a great land, that history is so precious. His story, that is to say the story of whatever person happened by, it's important. They were our ancestors, the offspring of God, all of God's children as they traveled. Always respect other religions. It is their right to believe as they will. If you find other writings, some Christians seem to feel they're shut in, that we can't find anything that isn't Christian. Not so. Not everyone is Christian in this world today, and certainly they weren't then. But they were here, and they're our brothers. So we record it, take note of it, and analyze it. How fantastic it is. I always am amused that usually the high ground was the key basically in religious. So you usually find a fish or a cross or something above a Baal site or of another religion saying there was a Christian by this way. I find that amusing, but yet respecting, because they did not destroy the ancient writings of another belief. And don't you either. Always protect these sites when you happen along one. Many of them are unprotected, and the only way they can be protected is isolation and people not knowing where they are. And usually they're located in such an out-of-way place, if they still exist, that the lazy troubadour is too lazy to get there. So praise God, they remain protected. So we will continue our quest of searching for the truth, of searching for those ancestors that traveled this great nation among the great writings of the American Indian. As various peoples, we were all, as all peoples migrated in, through, and around this great nation, may we find those times, and may that history rather, and may we respect it, preserve it, accept it, and be thankful for it. That this great nation today, with God's blessings, and I feel it certainly does, that we have these treasures within ourselves and in our great nation that we can enjoy and taste and understand. Hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good day.